Today we are going to be replacing the automatic transmission fluid filter on my 2008 Chrysler Town and Country. This is just part of the standard maintenance that's done at 120,000 miles. It's a pretty easy repair. It is a bit messy, so you will need a drain pan and you will probably need an absorbent towel that you're willing to throw away at the end of the project. So this is the transmission pan. These are size 10 bolts that go all the way around, and one size 10 nut right there. Because there is no drain plug on this, you just have to loosen this and let the transmission fluid run out there, run out the back here. This is kind of slanted down and into their pan here. You just do the best you can not to get it on your driveway or garage floor. But outside of that, it's not too complicated. As you're doing this, you might run into the same issue I run into, whereas I've loosened all these bolts here, and I've actually removed some of these along the bottom, and the drain pan is still not draining. So what you might need to do at that point is get a putty knife or something to kind of pry this loose. What I've done is I've taken all the ones off of the bottom here, and I've just loosened these. I'm hoping that the pan will kind of just fall down like that and then drain out the bottom and not get transmission fluid everywhere. We'll see if that works. You may not be able to tell or not, but I've actually removed all of the bolts from this transmission pan, and it is still not coming off. It is leaking a little bit, which is a start, but I need it all the way off. So I was finally able to pull this thing off, and as you can see, it made a mess. That's what the towel's for, so while that finishes draining, I'm going to clean up my mess, and then we will actually replace the filter. So while that finishes dripping, you can go ahead and take the pan out, and what you're going to need to do is to scrape off all the old gasket with a razor or putty knife or something like that. But all this old gasket needs to come off so you have a nice smooth surface to put on the new gasket. You'll also need to do the same thing on the underside where it was connected. So once you get it more or less cleaned off, you'll notice this thing here. This is actually a cool little magnet that collects all the little tiny metallic pieces that fall off in your transmission. So you can go ahead and wipe that off with a towel, and wipe all this out inside with the towel, because if you're like me, you've got little pieces of this rubber all in there, and that all needs to come out before you put it back on. Once all the surfaces are cleaned off, the last thing you need to do is actually the easiest part, which is to simply pop this old filter off and put the new one on. So this will just need to kind of tug and pull till it comes off, and put on the new one. Alright, now on mine you can see that when I pulled off the old filter, this little ring stayed in there. You want to take that little ring out because your new filter should have a new ring on it. This is your new filter, and to install it, you simply put it in the right position. There's a little peg there that should line up in that hole, and just pop it in. So once you're ready to put the new gasket on, you can see it's kind of warped a bit. What you can do is go ahead and take your bolts, put them on underneath, and put this on here. And take one from the opposite side and put it on, and you'll find that this gasket actually kind of holds these bolts in place, which makes it a bit easier when you go to reinstall. So it's getting dark. I'm not sure if you can still see this, but once you have the pan back in place, you need to go back and tighten all the bolts. I couldn't find the official torque settings, but I found some other sites that said to take a first pass at like 80 inch-pounds and then take a second pass at 120 inch-pounds. So that's what I did, and it seems secure. Next, we put in the new transmission fluid and start the engine and let it circulate. You drain the transmission fluid into this pan. If you're like me, you probably spilled a lot. So one way to determine how much transmission fluid you took out is to dump it into some other container where you can measure how much you took out. That's going to be the bare minimum you need to put back in. You'll probably have to add a little bit more to it to get it back full. So I filled this container up, and it shows that, I don't know if you can tell, but anyway, it's up to about 4.5 quarts. So I have 3 quarts that I bought, so I'll put these 3 quarts in and then run the engine and take a measurement and see how short I am.